Hello everyone, it's Jamal Thomas. Welcome to the Progressive Soapbox. So, Bullshit Man. I don't know if everybody knows Bullshit Man. Bullshit Man is one of my subscribers. He's from down under, if I'm not mistaken. He has his ear to the ground to a lot of the stuff that takes place in I guess you should say social media world. He turned me on to this particular story. So, Bullshit Man, thank you very much. NSA was supposed to keep or preserve certain records from the Bush era, essentially the warrantless wiretapping, the worldwide wiretapping. Essentially, Bush turned the NSA onto the entire world, and in doing so, a federal court required it to maintain its records, and it made a pledge to maintain its records. The NSA said, "Fuck all," and deleted those records, including the backups, and then says, "Oh, we sincerely regret doing so." Let's take a look at the story. This is an amazing story. I mean, they essentially bucked a federal court telling them to do something. They completely ignored an order by a federal court to preserve their records. This is amazing. This is, let's see. And I do know some people say, well, dude, it's the NSA. It doesn't matter. The NSA is still, just like every other organization, held to some degree of law. And the idea that these guys can just ignore and say, fuck all, is disturbing, to say the least. And there needs to be consequences for it. This is Politico. NSA deleted surveillance data it pledged to preserve. The agency tells the judge that it's investigating and sincerely regrets its failure. I bet it is. I bet it is investigating, and I bet it does sincerely regret its failure. The National Security Agency destroyed surveillance data it pledged to preserve in the connection with a pending lawsuit, and apparently never took some of the steps it told a federal court it had taken to make sure that the information wasn't destroyed, according to court filings. Word of the NSA's foul-up is emerging as Congress has extended for 6 years the legal authority of the agency. The agency uses for much of its surveillance work conducted through the United States internet providers and tech firms. President Donald Trump signed that measure into law on Friday. The wild part about this is Donald Trump sent off a tweet saying that he had skepticism about this particular bill. He was right to have skepticism about this bill. They kept saying, and they kept telling him, and this is kind of the problem with having an incompetent president. They kept telling him, hey, this is only for international use. Now, imagine the ridiculousness of this, as if that makes it better. You're effectively saying in the open that we're spying on everybody abroad. And in spying on everybody abroad, don't worry about it, because we're not spying on the citizens here in the United States. That is fundamentally a lie. Ultimately, the unmasking process allows them to look at people here, meaning look at the communications that's taking place here in the United States. So the idea that the law or the provision that they were talking about only pertained to external or outside the country was wrong. It was wrong. They presented that story as if American citizens weren't being spied on. That was wrong. American citizens were being spied on. American citizens are being spied on. That's my point. At any point along the process, I need you to unmask that. That unmasking process was what they used to spy on Donald Trump. When Donald Trump said we're being wiretapped, people joked him for this. People said he was lying for this. Myself being one of them, say Donald Trump is full of shit. And come to find out, Donald Trump wasn't full of shit. Now, he used the term wiretap, and they were trying to be specific, saying, well, he wasn't wiretapped. But they don't use wires in this way anymore. But it doesn't matter. They understood what he was saying. Somebody was spying on my communications from the last administration, using this pretext of a Russian nonsense to do so. Now, people don't like to have this idea that Obama was doing this. Obama was doing this. They don't like this idea that the FBI or the NSA, all these things were being politicized. They were being politicized. Let's refer them to the story. So, let's see. I need this. And this. And by the way, if you believe that this was a mistake, you're the naivest person on the planet. This wasn't a mistake. They didn't want the court looking into the information. This idea of, oh, oops, sorry, we didn't mean to delete this. Our bad. What about the backups? Oh yeah, we deleted that too. Sorry. It was a mistake. It's amazing. And they gave these guys more authority for the next 6 years, even though these guys were flagrantly bucking oversight from the judicial branch. Since 2007, the NSA has been under court orders to preserve data about certain of its surveillance efforts that came under legal attack following disclosures that George W. Bush had ordered warrantless wiretapping of international communications after the 2001 terrorist attack on the United States. In addition, the agency was made a series of representations in court over the years about how it's complying with those duties. However, the NSA told U.S. District Court Judge Jeffrey White in a filing on Thursday night and another little notice submission last year that the agency did not preserve the content of the internet communications intercepted between 2001 and 2007 under the program Bush ordered. To make matters worse, backup tapes that might have mitigated the failure were erased in 2009, 2011, and 2016, the NSA said. The NSA sincerely regrets its failure to prevent the deletion of its data, NSA Deputy Director of Capabilities, identified publicly as Elizabeth B., wrote in a declaration filed in October. NSA senior management is fully aware of this failure, and the agency is committed to taking swift action to respond to the loss of this data. Swift action how? You've deleted the data. The entire point of deletion is so you don't have access to the data. Swift action how? Are you bringing up charges on somebody? Are you firing somebody? Or what's the swift action? In an update on Thursday, another NSA official said the data were deleted during a broad house cleaning effort aimed at making space for incoming information. Are you telling me, are you saying with a straight face that the NSA didn't have the information or didn't have data capacity? Meaning the NSA, their servers were so full, we're intaking so much information that we had to do some house cleaning. We had to erase some of the information. I mean, we don't have enough resources in order to hold all this data. So, you know, we had to delete some of this data. That's bullshit. That's BS. I don't believe that for a second. Are you shitting me? The NSA that's spying on everybody all across the world, and including United States citizens, didn't have enough information, didn't have enough storage capacity. So they had to delete information that the court ordered them to keep. With a straight face. They're saying this with a straight face. Let's keep going. The NSA review to date reveals that the NSA review to date reveals that this internet content data was not specifically targeted for deletion, wrote the official, identified as Dr. Mark O., but rather the PSP internet content data matched criteria that were broadly used in deletion of a certain type in response to mission requirements to free up space and improve performance of the backup system. The NSA is still investigating how this deletion came about given the preservation obligation extant at the time. The NSA, however, had no reason to believe at this time that the PSP internet content data was specifically targeted for deletion. Yeah, okay. Defiance of the court order can result in civil or criminal contempt charges as well as sanctions against the parties responsible. So far, no one involved appears to have asked White to impose any punishment or sanction on the NSA over the newly disclosed episodes, although the details of what happened are still emerging. It's really disappointing, said Dave Breen, an attorney with the Electronic Frontier Foundation, which has been leading the prolonged litigation over the program in federal court in San Francisco. The obligation's been in place for a really long time now. We had a major dust-up about it just a few years ago. This is definitely something that should have been found sooner. Yeah, it should have been. It should have been. How do you know what your government is doing if you don't have oversight of that government? They've given the National Security Agency the power to spy on American citizens and on people abroad. That power needs oversight. There is no capacity where you should have a rogue agency of the United States government roaming about, spying on whoever it wants to spy on. And by the way, using that information in cases that goes beyond terrorism. Understand what I'm saying? The information that the NSA takes and steals and harvests from people is open to other agencies to look at. That was something that Obama did just before Obama left, allowing information that was pulled by the NSA through these nefarious means to allow other agencies to use that information. And that information is being used for things that go beyond terrorist activities, or quote-unquote terrorist activities. How do you know, or how can you keep an eye on your government if you don't know what your government is doing? And if your government is behaving and working in the shadows, how on earth can you have any earnest oversight? How? How? It's a fundamental question. And it's a fundamental problem with this idea of national security. If any and everything can be filed under this idea of national security, then you have no idea what your government is doing. Governments, agencies, don't like oversight. An agency like this that pulls information in the way that it pulls information doesn't like oversight, especially if that agency is doing something illegal. Especially if they're doing something illegal. Congress has voted to give these guys authorization for the next 6 years. The same group that just deleted information that a federal court ordered them to keep. For the sanctity of government, meaning if the federal courts are to have any power at all, if government, meaning the judicial branch, is to have any power at all, then they need to be prosecuted. Whoever's responsible need to be held in contempt, and they need to be prosecuted. They need to be found. There needs to be an investigation, and not an eternal investigation. None of this shit like a cop shoots a black kid and then the cop or the agency itself investigates and says everything is clean here. It was just an accident. No, there needs to be an external investigation of the NSA, and the people responsible for this need to be prosecuted. They need to be held in contempt and prosecuted. If you want to have any oversight, if the federal government, meaning if federal courts, are to have any power at all and any oversight of this particular organization, then they need to be willing to say, you're not going to do this, you're not going to get away with this, we're going to be skeptical that this was an accident. And because we're skeptical that this was an accident, we're going to hold you in contempt. We told you to keep this information. You guys are doing something fabulously shady. We told you to keep this information. You deleted this information. We have reason to believe that you deleted this information because you didn't want this information to come public. We have reason to believe that it is possible that what you were doing was grossly and over the top, illegal. And as such, and to be honest, besides the point, the federal court told you to keep that information. If I am walking in the street and I am caught with a bag of pot, I'm going to get dragged to jail. Even if that cop was an alcoholic, that cop in no way would see the irony of an alcoholic cop dragging somebody for smoking a plant and putting that person in a cage. If something as minor as that, as insignificant as a person making a personal choice, can be thrown in prison for something in that way, how the hell does the NSA and elements of the NSA get away with bucking a federal order? If the judicial branch is to have any legitimacy at all, this shit can't fly. Now, I understand that this probably will fly. I'm making the point that if there is any checks and balances in government at all, if you don't have rogue agencies roaming about doing whatever they want to do. If you want to put a stop to that, then at the very least, you need to have some sort of bulwark. You need to create some sort of precedent that you are willing to hold people in contempt when they're doing shit that deserves to be held in contempt. We want you to keep that information because you're behaving illegally, or at the very least, you're doing something that goes so beyond the pale of what's decent and what's right that you need to hold that information. This information is under legal, there are legal things that are going around this information. This information needs to be available for legal reasons. And they said, fuck that. Fuck that. Delete. Delete. I suppose it's one large red button, like it was one large red button for the Hawaii thing. Not the Hawaii thing. Hawaii, where they were saying there was a missile strike and the guy hit the wrong button. It was just one big red button. He just punched the button. He was like, oh, our bad. That was a mistake. I guess it was the same way. Somebody accidentally hit this large button that said delete. No, delete. Our bad. We sincerely regret it. We were just house cleaning. And in the process of house cleaning, because, we're the NSA, we're underfunded. We don't have much storage capacity. And because we don't have much storage capacity, we have to delete some of the stuff. It just so happens that the thing that the court told us, that the federal court told us to hold on to because it was deal in a legal matter and a legal issue, we accidentally deleted it. Our bad. Our bad. If that was anybody else, if that was you, if that was me, if that was my wife, if that was my mom, you throw a rock. If it was any random person that you hit with that rock, if that person bucked an order from a federal court, the person would be put in prison. NSA should not be above the law. The CIA should not be above the law. None of these organizations should be above the law. They were explicitly told to keep that information, and they blew that order off. So, whether or not they're prosecutions, no, I'm not holding my breath. But come on. Come on. So, let's see. Let's take a few quotes and comments, and then we got to get out of here. We're gonna have to get out. Let's see. Brom SO1. Until these things stop becoming commonplace, I agree these things should be punishable by execution. By execution? Jesus Christ, that's a little strong. I was talking about putting people in a cage. You're talking about taking people's life. God no. The court lacks the power to bend the alphabets to the rule of law. There will be no serious consequences. God no. Unfortunately, I agree with you. Unfortunately, I agree with you. Pat Hacker, to quote Hillary, we need to bring them to heel. Agreed, Pat. Agreed. Direct the hitman. Obstruction of justice. Yeah. It's obstruction of justice. They should be held in contempt. I have zero faith in government doing the right thing. Yappo. Agreed. Unfortunately, I agree. I agree with all of you on this. Spill my Covey on the keyboard again. Oh, I'm sorry, Robert. I'm sorry. Bullshit man. Safe travels, mate. Thanks, bullshit man. And thanks for the story, by the way. This is fucking amazing. I agree with you. This shouldn't be allowed. This shouldn't be allowed in the least. Brom LSO1. How else are we going to get to the point across? These people seem to think that there aren't going to be any consequences for their actions. You're right. There needs to be consequences for their actions. This is kind of my point. Either federal courts have legitimacy or they don't. If they have legitimacy, then when a federal court tells the agency to do something, the agency is to do something. Otherwise, you're going to find that they're just going to continuously flaunt and buck the federal or the judicial system because, there's no consequence. Why do we have to listen to the judicial branch if there's no consequence that requires us to listen to the judicial branch? Yeah. Rob Illinois, can somebody that Jamal always calls on tell us that the microphone he's using right now sounds way better? Oh, that's funny. That's funny. Brom SO1, right now they don't have any legitimacy. Yeah, unfortunately. Unfortunately. All right, guys, I'm going to end this. Thank you guys for showing up. I appreciate you guys for showing up. I got to get out of here. I'm heading back to the States. Look, If you guys enjoy the content, feel free to share, like, subscribe, and of course, you can always support through Patreon. Thanks, guys. So what to say?